Howdy, I'm Matt, and in this episode we are going to be chatting about the THEER FPV Racing Wing, which, anyway, I have some good news. There are instructions with this! So if you don't know the story to this, is that we did an unboxing of not only this THEER wing, but flying wing, but we also did 4 other RC models in a live event a couple of days ago. I'll put links to that in the top right hand corner. And one of my complaints about this wing, which by the way you're going to get a shed load of complaints, this is not a perfect wing by any stretch of the imaginations, is that one of my biggest complaint, there was no bloody instructions with it. But I stand corrected. There are some instructions which have come with this. I am a little bit but I'll tell you what, I am actually really concerned about this CG point, and you'll find out about that later in this episode. There is a power distribution board in here, and if I wouldn't have been able to work it out without these instructions, so I'm super chuffed that there are some instructions with this. Well, they're pretty basic, but hey ho, they were enough just to do the cool bit, and you'll find out what the cool bit is very, very shortly. Now, so that I stay on topic, I have written myself some notes, okay? Now, the first one, by the way, it's the second time which I recorded it. I wasn't very happy with the first time around, so I'm doing this again. So, first time around, I did have this big, long rant about there being no bloody instructions, and I'm absolutely wrong on that one. There were some instructions. They were in the bottom of the box, typical bloke thing in it. You get the box out, put them all together, and then you find the instructions, which was definitely this scenario which I found myself in. So yeah, I stand corrected, there are instructions. Right, let's get on to the heat of the topic. Well, first things first is that it doesn't look like a bad wing. Okay, we've got to give it its due. I do like that little bit there. That's the one thing which I really do like about this wing. I do like that bit there. And again, I don't know whether it makes it look like a bit like a reptile, but it does look cool. That is my favourite part of the entire wing. Anyway, it's a cool little wing. You've got a FPV camera, HD camera in the front, blah, blah, blah. But there are quite a few negatives about this wing. Now, before we go any further, I would like to set the scenario. And the scenario requires me just to go off camera a sec and shift that box out of the way, which is that there is a fantastic, and I genuinely mean this, a fantastic wing out there called the Reptile S800. And there's the Reptile S800. This is the V2 version, which is a load of tripe. There's nothing. The only difference between V1 and V2 on the Reptile S800 is that they changed the foam. That's it, that's all they did. It's not really a version 2, they just changed the colour of the foam. Now, why am I using this as a reference? The reason why I'm using this as a reference is because the Reptile S800, it's got a few minor issues, like a little bit of waggle. It could definitely do with some little vortex generators on there to cope with the waggle at lower speeds. But for all intents and purposes, if you're a quad pilot or you're looking for a really robust wing, the Reptile S800 is definitely my suggested wing for you, in short. Now, do keep them back in mind. I want to make this very, very clear, okay? That wing, which is actually my second Reptile S800, was bought out of my own money for my own abuses, okay? I needed to make this 100% clear. The same as the THEER wing underneath. That was not a freebie for review. I paid good money for the plug-and-play kit on that wing, and actually since then I've had 5 invitations to be sent that wing for free, and I've declined every single one of them. And you might also want to decline buying it as well, and you're going to find out what I mean in a few moments time. So anyway, I was setting the stage. Reptile S800 has 1 or 2 little minor niggles, but for all intents and purposes, a bloody fantastic wing. My previous version, I stuck in a tree at about 100 miles an hour, and literally a bit of hot glue and tape later, we were up flying again. So yeah, Reptile S800, really, really good wing. Think they're fantastic. But this wing, it's kind of like they looked at the success of this one and made it bad in pretty much every single way. And I'm going to hold my guns on that one, because I do feel, while it has some good points, they, compared to the S800, they're like the one of the I would say almost the marketplace average. I'm trying looking for the right word. You know what I mean? It's the default good like FPV ring for a good old basher, one which you can just ram into a tree, land anywhere you like, and it's still going to survive. Is the S800. It's been a fantastic success. Was the word I was looking for. But the thing is that they must have looked at the S800 and they made it bad in many, many different ways. Now, like I said, to reset the situation out, let's get ourselves onto topic. Now, like I said, this wing was bought about my own money for my own abuses. Okay. Also, for 100% clarity, any links which are in the video description are likely to be affiliate links. So if you use any of those, you will be supporting this channel. Again, something which I like to be 100% clear about. So that's cleared all the basic stuff out of the way. Right. Number one, underrated ESC. So we open this thing up, and I'm gonna have a zoom in. So apologies for the little bit of a waggle there. It's just the camera on the desk. Right, so this is the insides of the model. In fact, I need to zoom out a touch there so we get it right. So you'll see that I got a 2200 4S pack, which is actually a big surprise, but you're going to find out some downsides to that in a few moments' time. We did get, that's not a flight control board, that's a PDB, a power distribution board, and it came with 0 instructions. Okay, now before we get to that, there is an ESC. Now you're going to have to excuse my bit of crappy red tape on there. That was the best tape which I could find to hand, just to cover up the solder joints on there, because I didn't want that rattling around touching this board, because no Velcro was supplied in the kit, so I went for the basic option, just a bit of tape around there. So my point being, the ESC is only rated for 25 amps. Okay, now apparently it has a burst up to 35, but when we look at the bigger picture, we have an ESC which is only rated to 25 amps, but it is 4S rated, and we've got a great big 4S pack here. And then we've got a motor which is, and we'll find out more details on this motor in a moment, but just for now, it's 2,550 kV, and they supplied a tri-blade prop. So yes, it has got a tri-blade prop, and there was only one of those in there. Now, those of you which may be a little bit observant may have noticed that. We'll get to that in a moment. But my point being here is that I don't think that a 25 amp ESC is going to be good enough for this, and I do expect that we might have some fire in this kit later on. And I do find I can't find my power meter, which is really frustrating, because I'd love to crank it up, the motor up with 2 different ESCs, so maybe say a 40 amp ESC, and swap this one over to their 25 amp, just to make the point that with this motor prop and ESC and battery combo is that it's likely to pull more than 25 amps continuous out of it anyway. So yeah, I do feel the ESC was underrated. Number 2 is a weird KV motor. Now this motor is a 2,550 kV motor. Now, how many of you have seen a motor with that kV rating? Very, very peculiar indeed. So I'm just going to zoom in so you can have a quick look at the motor itself, because there's a few points which you need to know about this motor. And then again, this was the plug and play kit. This was the motor which they supplied as part of that kit. Is a very weird KV. It's a very high KV, which means it's going to be a screamy little wing. Okay, so one of those wings which makes a lot of noise but doesn't actually get anywhere particularly quickly. It is a 2205, something weird name which I've never come across, RC in power or something they've got written on there. Now, 2 things about the motor itself. The first thing is that the windings, now you're not going to see those very well, you have to take my word for it. Those windings, which are just down in here, are not the best windings which I've ever seen on a motor. So I suspect this was definitely a cheapo motor which they included in this kit. Also, there's something which is very, very obvious in this kit, which is that nobody in the factory, when they designed and made the plug and play kit for this wing, nobody actually put the wing together. And now, why do I know that? Nobody did put it together with the parts which they provided. Why do I know that? Is because there's 2 bloody obvious things which you're going to find out in one of them right now and another one in just a moment. Can you see the top of that prop nut? So in the proper, that nut there, it's just like a quad motor, which I'm assuming that it probably was, is that you've got a nylon lock ring in there. Now, using their supplied propeller, that propeller is too thick and it will not use the nylon lock. So that thread, the motor shaft, is basically too short. So this, and again, with the combination of one of the other things that you'll find out in a few moments' time, is that it really does, it's like glaringly obvious that they've put these parts together and made a plug-and-play kit, but it's, number one, it's not plug-and-play at all. You have to get your solder and iron out as well. There's lots of fiddly stuff in here, again, compared to other kits out there. I'm going to use, actually, the EF Extra from Hobby King as a reference. That was a true plug-and-play kit. I plugged in my receiver, I calibrated the ESC, stuck a battery in it, and we went flying. Okay, that's the basic summary of the EF Extra. Looking over that on the shelf, two of the Fun Fighter series, like the Rare Bear and there was a Fot Wolf. Both of those, stick a receiver in, calibrate the ESC, battery, good to go. Okay, this is not a plug and play kit. This is a kit with some parts which you have to solder with really shit instructions. Okay, so I do feel that the plug and play bit was very, it's not plug and play. The PMP is a load of rubbish. It's a kit with some parts, and they're not the best chosen parts ever in the world. Right, so where were we? Underrated ESC, weird KV motor, crappy motor windings, no screw... yeah, sorry. We got to about the motor shaft being too short. There was no motor screws. So in this kit, which was very, again, it was semi-comprehensive. In this kit, you do get this LED light bar at the back, which, by the way, is very, very cool. It's the coolest thing about the whole wing, which is those LEDs there. You'll see those in a moment. They are super cool. But coming back to my point is that you did get a nice aluminium motor mount, thumbs up there. You did get some nice screws in there to screw the motor through the glass fibre board with the LEDs on it, into the plywood on the back of the motor mount, into the motor mount, really nice on there. But they forgot to include, you know, those little countersink screws to attach the motor to the motor mount. Which is that if you were a brand new pilot and you didn't have any of those parts available to any, even those little screws to you, you would have been royally literally screwed for not having any screws. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, wasn't impressed about that. Again, it goes to about this point, nobody really put this model together themselves in the factory because they would have found out, oh crap, where's our motor screws? And I've checked here all across the desk, there aren't any little bags hiding here. The only bag which I do have hiding here is the great big bag, which with all my other motor bits in there, which I've had to go and salvage 4 motor screws out to be able to attach the motor to the model. Right, moving on. Again, I'll try and keep as quickly as possible and as objective as possible, hence why I've got my little list here. Side bays too small. So just like the Reptile S800, which we saw a few moments ago, you may have spotted these two little holes here either side, which are for the side bays. Now, like I said, they've taken a look at the Reptile S800 and perhaps made it bad in every way possible, because this wing also suffers from exactly the same issue of, yeah, if I turn it over, these little bays. So there's a little bay there for our FPV transmitter, so I'll zoom in there. Okay, and you see it's a really good fit. Okay, nice little fit. Oh, big tip for you as well, get a pair of these little wire snippers, those little snippers, and if you cut out the chunks of carbon fibre, that then means you can clearly see what channel you're on, and you can push the button to change your channel. Happy days, nice and straightforward. And it saves you having to buy those really expensive TBS ones, so you can spend $10 on one of those, and which I don't think that's normally what I suggest is the Eachine 526 video transmitters. I've got loads of those. I don't think that's actually one of them. And I've got a 90-degree connector again. Is the plug and play kit. You will need a 90-degree SMA whatever connector for your video transmitter. Now the point being is that we got the same issue as what we've got here with the Reptile S800, which is that the bays are too small for a standard receiver. So that's actually an FR Sky D4R2 receiver which we've got in there, and you'll see that I've had to cut out a chunk on the end to make it fit, and then I've run the antennas just with a bit of tape up either side. So yeah, the bays were not big enough. One of the annoyances with the Reptile S800. Now, actually, let's move to a nice positive point, which I do like that they've included this plastic leading edge to the wings, which again is going to be a curious one. I want to wrap this one around a tree just to see how well this plastic edge holds up. The reason being is because if you've got a flying wing like this made out of EPP or even EPO foam, is that if you just put just a piece of sellotape, and you'll see, I don't know if you can see the shininess on that front edge just there, is all I've done is put a piece of sellotape all the way along the leading edge of the wing. And again, this pretty much means any RC fixed wing model, a bit of sellotape along the leading edge of your wings means that if you hit a branch or a twig or something like that, or just thick grass or crop as you're landing, is that it will help maintain, help keep this leading edge nice and clean over a period of time. And again, one nice storage I like to share is that over there on the shelf, I've got a micro Sky Hunter, really little thin wing. Put a piece of sellotape along the leading edge of that wing. I clipped a tree at full knacker. The model span round and round and round and then just landed flat on the ground. Now, besides that having some mud on it, on the wing, must have been doing like 60, 70 miles an hour of it. All I had was a tiny little dent in the wing, and that was it. Oh, and of course the screws had moved on the top. But the actual damage to the wing itself, because I put sellotape along the leading edge, was minimal. Okay, so just cheap option for you. Again, I do it myself, bit of sellotape along the edge. What they've done with the THEER wing is use some plastic on the edge. Again, this is why I'm saying I'd love to wrap this one round a tree just to see how that holds up. I would guess it's going to buckle and then break off, but I might be wrong. Again, remember, I'm here with a couple of objective points about this model, but do remember, we always hold off final judgment on any model until we get the model in the sky, because we've had models here before, haven't we, which have been absolute dogs to build. Second they're in the sky, oh, everything was forgotten. And then we've had the complete reverse of that as well. So yeah, that's why we hold off final judgment. So I'm not saying, by the way, I don't suggest that you, to be absolutely clear, do not buy the plug and play kit of the version of this wing. And if it's going to be your first wing, the S800 would be a far superior choice. And also, just my impressions here as well, is that there are better models out there on the market. But this one could fly like a complete peach, but we will hold off final judgment until the end. Next topic, which I've only got a couple more to go, by the way. Like I said, I was using a little notepad just to keep myself on topic. I don't like this motor mount area back here. There's just basically a huge, great big hole in this back section here, which we saw in the unboxing. I do feel that is a big area of weakness. Again, considering that they've been supplied a tri-blade motor, which will 99.9% of the time catch on the ground, okay? Also note that the ESC does not have the brake enabled by default. And also, I don't think I can enable the brake as well. Well, not easily. It's a BH Heli. So you quad guys out there which go, oh, you can just connect it up to BH Heli, sweet, and then plug it in. And then go and change all my settings. I can even reverse it as well. If you're a bit nerdy like that, fucking knock yourself out. I know, I can't be asked. A proper plain ESC would have been a better choice in there. And again, underrated, and it doesn't have the brake on by default. And by the way, with the vast majority of fixed wing models, especially flying wings, you want the brake enabled, especially for landing. Anyway, getting to my other point, like I said, nobody's actually really put this kit together from the factory because they would have noticed their two big fuck-ups. The first one was that the motor shaft is not long enough for the propeller which they supplied. And number two is their servo leads are not long enough. And I've had to use an extension, which anybody putting this together, two little bays, you'll put your video transmitter on one side and your receiver on the other, opposite, get maximum separation for them. But no, you can't do that because the lead they provide, and you'll see that I've had to include myself, put myself an extension lead in there, is that the lead only comes like halfway across. Why? For a couple of pence for a little lead. Like I said, no one has actually put this kit together in the factory, and it shows, okay? Big fuck up there. Screw up with the servos as well. Also on the topic of the servos, okay? I don't want to knock these too much because they're a decent brand, which are Emax. And as far as I found, most Emax servos are pretty good. Cheap, and cheerful, and they kind of work. So this is a plastic geared servo. Personally, what I would have liked to have seen, now I don't know, well, I'm pretty sure these are fakes, okay? They're Tower Pro MG90Ss. Banggood updated their website before Christmas at some point to take the Tower Pro label off. So I am pretty sure for the past year, I have been recommending fake Tower Pro MG90S servos from Banggood. And I can tell you, even if they are fake, they are absolutely brilliant. The only times I've been and broken these ones is that when I've perhaps given them a bit too much welly than needed. So for example, I've broken quite a few by an elbow in the bag into the surface as I've been walking up a hill to go slope sawing. No, not even the expensive ones are going to survive that. Anyway, my point being, these are super cheap. These are cheaper. These are metal geared servos, and they're cheaper than the cheap plastic geared Hobby King servos. And I would have personally preferred to have seen those in this kit. Again, considering the amount of money which I paid for this kit, and it was not cheap. I'll put the full details in the video description because I can't remember how much I paid for it. All I remember at the time is that I thought, fucking hell, that's expensive. Bought it, and I bought all the parts together because I'm short on time, you know. But actually, in hindsight, perhaps I should have chosen my own motor and just do what I normally have done. But yeah, I'm time poor at the moment, which is rather frustrating. Anyway, servos okay, but the leads, they're long, but they're not long enough to go to the other side. Like I said, if they couldn't get older leads which go all the way to the other side, then you will need a servo extension lead, which is not included in the kit. Moving on. Oh, nose options. Now, if we think about some of the other wings which are available to us right now, so let's think about, just like this one, a newer wing, the AR Stealth wing. As many of you know, I picked fault in that one quite a lot. I found about 11 defects in that wing, which, to be fair, Sonic model put some better ventilation in there, and I think they sorted out the flexi wingtips, because that was fucking scary. Honestly, they're a brand new model, and you could bend the wingtip like that, and it would go up and down, like, oh, anyway, put that aside for a moment. Oh, I need to put LEDs down here. Oh, no. I'll put that down in a moment, because I do want to end this review, well, this almost review, because we haven't flown it yet, on a really positive point. And when you see what I mean, you're going, yeah, that's fucking well cool, man. It's brilliant. Anyway, so nose options. We were chatting about the AR wing. If we think about the, what was the Orbit wing? Also by Sonic model as well. Then those models come with 3 different nose cones which you can stick on the front. Okay, now this is where my point comes true, is because this is where I feel that perhaps the Fair wing, it was made bad in every way compared to the S800, because probably one of the biggest bugbears, I'm sure many of you will agree with me, which have owned one of these, is that you don't really get many options for, just look at the state of the, look, that's how much I like my S800. It is absolutely caked in mud. Brilliant stuff. Anyway, you don't get really many options around the nose, but you do get your bit which you can stick in there, but you only get one of those, and that's exactly my point, is that if you were going to make a good stab at the S800, again, moulded EPP, okay, that's like the most successful wing I think going at the moment. It's the Reptile S800. If anybody who had looked at that would go, oh yeah, look at that. Maybe I should include, well, maybe we should include multiple nose cones, but no, all they've been included, let's get zoomed in so you can see what I'm talking about. They've just been included this one little nose area on here, and there's not even full foam. They've skimped out on the foam and all, which is really frustrating. So you'll see that I've just wedged my camera in there, and again, there's no hole to the back, so I'm gonna have to cut out a hole. So maybe it could have been done better in the mold, hint hint, on there, but it would have been really nice if they included at least one of these spares nose section, because these will get cut up. So if you think about this logically, where's that POS camera? There's that EKN camera which I reviewed a while back, which was pretty good, but I managed to break the screen on it already. Anyway, stick that in the nose, is that if I want to protect that FPV camera, it means I've got to cut this piece up, but then later on I got to keep this on there, and there's no nice way of getting it all in there and nice and neat. Because if you do put that just in the nose, is that it does look pretty cool, and that's the nose area. But you can't fit a normal run cam in there. You might be able to fit a session in there, but there's no you didn't get the Velcro strap to hold it in there, so you'll see there's multiple mount points. So that mount point there is for a GoPro style camera, or you've got one which goes up like top and bottom, or side to side should I say, for a session to go in there. But you've only got one bit just to cover your camera up. And do you think that bit there is going to stay on top of there if I cut it off? And the answer is no. Or if you cut it off, should I say. The answer is no. Now, that brings us on to a nice topic, which is the centre of gravity. I was going to, well, when I did the previous version, I had a good old bitch about the centre of gravity. But on here, they say that CG is 94 millimetres from the leading edge, and they show it, and I'll put that right on the camera, so there, they show it as being at the top of the little sections underneath. So what I'm going to do, you'll see that I've got a 2200 4S pack in here. Okay, let's pop that on there. Let's take a nice big chunky camera. Don't matter if I broke it, I've already broken it, in the nose. Okay, now we're going to turn it up the other way. You'll see me put my finger on the CG mark, just like they said on that picture. I can't do that in reverse, I'm going to stick my head under. There we go. Okay, and you ready for this? Right, bloody great big camera on the front. Heavier than a normal GoPro. You ready for this? Tail heavy. Okay, grossly tail heavy. So yeah, and the thing is that we're a little bit screwed as far as battery goes, because you've got to push that battery back so far, because look where they got the magnets. They got magnets in both corners, so you can't get that battery any further forwards because the magnets are the same height of the battery. So yeah, you can fit a 2200 4S in there, but you can't move it any forward. So you're gonna have to. Well, I'm gonna have to, and it'll be the same for you. Put a shed load of lead in the front. And again, if you don't want to put a camera in the front, which to be honest I didn't really want to do that with this wing, is that all that front section, I'm going to have to put a shitload of lead in the front just to hit CG, which kind of indicates that maybe they, like I said, they've taken a look at the S800 and made it bad in every way. Because if someone was to perhaps redesign this model, you would think about the fuselage and how you can get the battery closer to the nose, so you don't run into a centre of gravity issue like we are here with this one. And again, this is a late contender to the market. The S800's been out for months and months and months. This one only came out like less than a month ago, and it's been sat here for, unfortunately, for a bloody month because I've been so busy with other stuff. But yeah, really disappointing. Someone's put some time and effort into this and then like let it down at the last stage. Anyway, nose options, terrible. CG, massive issue. Centre of gravity. I'm going to have to put a shitload of lead in the front. No apologies for swearing. I find that very, very frustrating because basically I'm now going to be carrying dead weight. Even if I put a camera in the front, I'm still going to have to add lead to it so I can run it with a 2200 4S. Okay, find that very frustrating. We spoke about the motor mount at the back, and that now brings us on to the one very, okay, I was saving this one to the very, very end. The one very, very cool thing about this wing. And by the way, I just want to stress, you can put this on any of your models, okay, which is an LED bar at the back. So you can get these little addressable LED bars. But before we go there, I just want to make this point. There is a power distribution board there, which came with, let me move that out of the way, which came with 0 instructions. There's a buzzer on it. I don't even know what the buzzer does. Over on the far side, over there, there's a load plus and minuses and S symbols on it, but I've got no idea. Let me hold it there so you can see it. I've got absolutely no idea what they're for, and it's not even covered in the instructions when I found them. Oh, also, that's a good point, Matt, thanks for reminding me, is, you'll notice, let me put this right down here. You get me pen out so you can see. You'll notice this little plug here, which has got 3 wires coming out of it. Those 3 wires go, you have to solder them on the back of this LED strip at the back. So again, this is not a plug and play kit, it's a complete lie, because I had to get the soldering iron out, I had to solder those on, solder up the boards and stuff like that. Again, compared to other models which I've had, this is not plug and play at all. Anyway, you have to solder those onto tiny, tiny little pads. You imagine it's about the size of these little side pads. Really frustrating. Definitely not for a novice solder at all. Very, very annoying. I had to solder those up, put that plug on, and then have to solder in the other bits as well. Also that ESC, because it's only a quad ESC and not a proper plain ESC, there's no BEC, battery eliminator circuit to it, so I've had to pull 5 volts off the main board. You'll notice that extra black and red wire there, that's going off to the receiver, so I could get 5 volts off the board. You can also get 12 volts off this board, which would be ideal, say, for the video transmitter. Now, it doesn't appear to be a on-screen display included in this board, although they've got a pair of coils on here and a couple of other chips. There's no OSD chip, which is in there, and again, no programming pins to be able to do that. So I think it's just a plain Jane power distribution board. Now, one thing which confused me, and I hope I can zoom in so you can see this. The camera is going to wobble. Yeah, the camera's wobbling a bit. I do apologise, and I'll try and keep myself still. So that switch there, I don't know what that switch does. Okay, it does say VTX-SW on it. Okay, so that one there. Okay, and I'm zoomed in really heavily, so it's all a bit blurred. I do apologise. And then this one here is this little push switch. I didn't know what it did. Now, anyway, let's get to the point, which is it is pretty damn cool. It's short. Save the best to the end. Let's get the transmitter on. So. How cool's that? See, like I said, save the cool stuff to the end. That is well cool. Okay, that is probably the only saving grace, well, besides one other thing which I need to mention actually, which is the wing profile. Can you see how thin the cord is on that wing? It's like a third less than the S800. Now, why? Pretty lights, pretty light. I'll come back to pretty lights in a moment. A thinner wing cord means a faster flying wing. Okay, that does mean that it's going to be a little bit more of a handful, so definitely this wing is not for a beginner. Okay, definitely do, again, for everything which I've said so far, I hope I'm hammering home the point. This is not a beginner's wing, because there's just far too much to do in it for a beginner compared to other models out there, like the Reptile S800. Anyway, that is cool as frig. Okay, now, there is that little funny button in there, and I'm just going to hold that down. You got, again, this is a weird one. I would have probably clicked it once and then got bored with it and thought it was broken. But no, reading the instructions, you got to push down that little switch for 3 seconds, 2, 3, and then it will change patterns. 1, 2, there you go. So you now see it cycling through. So I'm going to hold it down again, 3 more seconds. That's pretty cool. Hold it down for another 3 seconds. Ooh, that is pretty cool. I do like the flashy LEDs on the back. That is probably this model's only saving grace, I would say, is that the LED bar is super cool. And if you can get, in fact, what I'll do for you is I'll see if we can get these parts separately on Banggood, and I'll put links to them in the video description, because I do suspect you'll need the power distribution board. Do note, also something which I missed off my notes, and I had that on my notes, and I thought I was talking about the motor mount. This little power distribution board, it's sat on top of those little plastic spacer things. They weren't glued in, so you had to glue them in yourself. Now, if you look really close, you'll see that 3 of the corners, there's an ESC in the way, 3 of the corners have got the screws in the corners there, but one of them back there is missing. And the reason why it's missing is because I used hot glue to stick the little plastic things in, and before I realised is that by the time they go in, and they're an absolute nightmare to put in, not the female dog version, which I was about to say, but they were an absolute dog to put in. I had to get a pair of pliers and ram them in because it was just a pain in the ass. Before I noticed, the hot glue would come up the middle, and then that meant the really long screws, with plastic screws which they provided, won't go down. So I had to cut it, and then it still won't go down the hole. Very, very frustrating. And again, like I said, no one's really put this model together properly in the factory. And it shows, it really does show. Just a quick note on how screamy this one is. Remember, it's a 2500 kV motor on 4S. Engines and we'll turn that on. Oh, it made a beepy noise. Don't know why that was. Should we try it again? There's my models on the opposite side of the desk falling off. Really, really screamy. Okay, because it's such a high kV motor. So yeah, you ain't gonna be the favourite at the flying site. with such a screamy motor, because it's going to scream its head off and not get anywhere particularly fast. Again, with a tri-blade on there. Right, let's quickly summarise, but it's time for us to wrap up. In fact, why don't I just leave that on there so you can see the flashy LEDs, because the flashy LEDs are well cool. Okay, remember that's probably the model's only saving grace, combined maybe with a nice wing cord, which means it'll be nice and fast. Anyway, right, in no particular order, we do have instructions, so Matt was wrong. I do apologise for those of you which had to suffer me moaning about there being no instructions in the box, in the live unboxing. They were in the box, right at the bottom, underneath the stickers. And as many of you know, I don't do stickers, so that's why I didn't get to it, so I do apologise for that. We have a weird KV motor. We have crappy motor windings on there. There are no motor screws for us to be able to mount the motor to the motor mount. That was very frustrating. This kit is definitely not, again, we'll get to that in a moment. Motor shaft was too bloody short. Remember, they provide this locking nut to go on there, but you don't actually reach the nylon bit to lock it down because the motor shaft is too short for the propeller which they've been provided. Well done. Side bays were too small. That was the bays on the bottom. They're too small, far too small. Servo extension was missing for the servos. Nose options, extremely limited. I am going to have to put a chunk of lead in the nose of this wing just for it to hit CG, and I really dislike that because it's just carrying dead weight in a wing when I'd personally rather carry more battery. I'm sure you want to carry more battery in a model, so it means you get longer flight time. CG is a massive issue. Just big issue. Got to put loads of lead in it. Not impressed. The mounting points we spoke about, the PDB with very few instructions at all. There are really annoying tiny little soldering points as well. This is definitely not a beginner's wing by any stretch of the imagination. So, and we are missing flashy lights, but I'm going to turn those off because so far my impression with this wing, as you may have guessed it, is not particularly good. I do feel right now my impression so far, and by the way, I'm not that far off building it. All I've got to do is put the little wiring loom in for the camera to go in the front and for the video transmitter, and then we're going to take her out for a Maiden. Remember, we do hold off final judgment on any model until we get it out, but this one so far, I'm afraid to say, it's not good. If anything, if this wing comes up super cheap, grab one. Okay, for God's sake, don't buy the plug and play kit because you're better off buying the right parts for this model. Again, getting some metal geared servos for the wings, getting a decent motor like perhaps a DYS SE2205 motor to go on the back, 2300 kV. You can fit a bigger prop on there. You could probably fit a 7-inch prop on there as well, so that gives you more options. By the way, those of you which got an S800, massive tip for you. Okay, I love this motor. It works out really well for me. It's I don't even know what brand it is. I don't think it's got any branding on it at all. It's an A2212 10-turn 1400 kV motor with a 7x5 prop on the back. Yes, you've got to go careful with it. And by the way, so you have also flush mounted the ESC in there. Yes, you've got to go careful with it on 4S. If you're going to run it full knacker on 4S all the time, that's not a good combo. But as far as flight efficiency goes, absolutely fantastic. And the point that I was making there is that wing there, you do have the opportunity to put a lower KV in there. When again, remember that's 2,500. 2300 or below would be a good combo for this wing. Again, remembering trying maybe not to use that big can motor which we saw a moment ago, because remember we do have a serious centre of gravity issue on this wing, so less weight here at the back the better. Okay, and it is going to be a complete screamer. So coming to my faults so far, in short, I do believe that there are better wings out there on the market, and for God's sake, do not buy the plug and play kit. I just don't think the parts are up to scratch. I think that's the point which I'm trying to make. Parts, not that good. Again, unfortunately, in the plug and play kit, you do get the LED piece. In the normal kit, I don't think you get the LED bar because you need the power distribution board. Catch-22, you can get those bits separately. Happy days, I think they would be worth those bits, the LED and the PDB buying separately, but that aside, not that good at the moment. Like I said, there's plenty where we are in an environment where as RC modelers, all of us together, there are so many options out there, and I've said this before, I'm going to say it now at this middle stage. I do feel that they've looked at the Reptile S800 and made it bad in every way, because that other one could be improved upon. They've just ignored that one and ignored the feedback. You go into any forums and people see people chatting about the S800. It's very quick to pick up what the bugbears are about this one. They completely ignored those, brought a new wing out, and I missed out one crucial point which wasn't in my notes. Okay, this wing is actually set up so you can have detachable wings. You can either glue on the wing. Sorry, I got pins in there at the moment because I glued them on last night. You can either glue on your wingtips like I've been and done for mine, or you get these crappy plywood ones, which I filed down there in the bin bag. Now, when it comes to the wings itself, you do get, hope you can see that. Yeah, you're going to have to zoom in to see that. Right, can you see that thumb screw down there? There's the thumb screw, okay? Now, the thing is that they've tried to make this model so that you could have detachable wings. But the problem is, you can't do up those nuts without a pair of pliers, so I've had to get a pair of pliers, get in there to do up the thumb screw, because if we go back and now look at this, you'll understand why. Let's zoom in there a moment. Okay, you can't get real good grip on that. That thumb screw, you just can't get a hold of it because there's no room for you to get your finger underneath. So you would, while get the zoom that we're going the right way, while you can detach the wings, the reality is that you don't want to do it because you're going to have to take a pair of pliers with you to go and tighten it up so the wings don't end up with loads of slop in them. So again, half-baked features. No, I don't feel someone designed it but never actually made a prototype and actually tried putting the wing together themselves, and it shows. Okay, it really does show. So I'm going to leave it on that point. Well, I'm going to leave it on that you have pretty flashy LEDs on the back, because that's like the coolest thing about this wing. And thank goodness, hopefully you can get that for other wings as well. So anyway, let's stick the lid on her. Like I said, she's really close to being ready to go out for a maiden. A lot of negatives on this one, but as I kept saying, we always hold our final judgment until we take it out, and it's probably going to fly quite well. Such a thin cord, it's going to be in like not a very thick wing, so it's going to fly pretty fast. Again, with the amount of lead which I need to put in the nose on this one, I'm going to have to throw it pretty hard as well to get it going, because it's going to be too heavy. My point being, much heavier than perhaps what it should have been or could have been. So I am frankly disappointed about this wing so far. And remember, bought this one out of my own money for my own abuses, and it was not a freebie for review. If you have any questions about the THEER wing, please just ask them in the comments section underneath this video. What I'll do at the end of this video as well, include a link to the playlist on the Reptile S800, so you can go and take a look at that one. And do remember my original S800, which is still alive, believe it or not, even after all the abuse my first one which I had, all the grief which I gave it, it's still alive. I've wrapped it around numerous trees, one of them extremely fast, and we ripped part of the wing off. Bit of hot glue, bit of tape, and we were up flying again. This one, I don't think so much. It's going to take the same kind of abuse. So anyway, from myself, Matt, I would like to say a massive thank you to you for taking the time to watch this video. Any questions about the THEER wing, ask in the comments section underneath this video. Don't forget to press the subscribe button on YouTube, and the reason being is that we've got the Maiden coming up on this one shortly, along with 4 other RC models as well. Again, all bought out of my own money from my own abuses, and we'll get those up as soon as we can. So from myself, Matt, cheerios!